Luca's eyes struggled to focus on the walkie-talkie. Faintly, he could hear... Lolo's voice was coming through more clearly now. But some words were still just static. The signal went silent. Luca held still, waiting for a response, his pounding heartbeat marking the passage of time. Lolo's voice began to fade. With that, the signal died for good. Luca grabbed the walkie-talkie and sprinted to the treehouse. Luca heard a group of footsteps approaching. He dashed behind the bushes to avoid being... Mr. Tolliver paused, shifting his eyes to one side. Mr. Tolliver took one long, quiet breath. The three shared a determined look. two boys shared a mischievous. Luca could only see a cloaked shape behind the rocket. He strained to hear as a muffled voice began. Fear gripped Luca's throat. Luca stared at the ground for a moment, trying to place the dampened voice. The figure shifted slowly from behind the rocket, revealing itself to Luca. Luca reached over empathetically. Iggy's tone jolted to dejected anger. Luca slumped to the ground, overwhelmed by guilt. Iggy slumped to his knees. Luca grabbed the walkie-talkie and headed for the window. Luca and Iggy climbed up the back of the treehouse to its roof, where Rollo had constructed his MCDC. The Mission Control Defense Cannon. From behind the crowd of clipboards, William Kerr strode forward. A warm Kerr's smile faltered. Luca's grip tightened on the MCDC. Luca's mind raced. He was caught in a trap. What do you do when there's no hope? Iggy wiped his cheeks with a sleeve. What are you gonna do, Luca? Luca drew himself up and decided to take the only option they had left. He swung the Mission Control Defense Cannon around, aiming it confidently at the smirking face of William Kerr. Luca summoned his most insolent demeanor. Kerr turned his back with a nonchalant wave of the hand. As the clipboards began to slowly advance on the treehouse, Luca looked to Iggy with resignation. The end. That escalated quickly. Maybe discretion was the better part of valor here. Let's put a pin in this. Luca drew himself up and decided to take the only option they had left. He swung the Mission Control Defense Cannon around, aiming it confidently at the smirking face of William Kerr. Luca summoned his most insolent demeanor. Kerr turned his back on the with a nonchalant wave of the hand. As the clipboards began to slowly advance on the treehouse, Luca looked to Iggy with resignation in his eyes. The end. That escalated quickly. Maybe let's put a pin in this for now. Luca drew himself up and decided to swung the Mission Control Defense Cannon around. Luca summoned his most insolent demeanor. Kerr turned his with a nonchalant wave of the hand. As the clipboards began to slowly advance on the treehouse, Luca looked to Iggy with resignation in his eyes. The end. That escalated quickly. Maybe discretion was the better part of valor here. Let's put a pin in this for now. Luca drew himself up and decided to take the only option they had left. Fight. He swung the mission control defense cannon around. Luca summoned his most insolent demeanor. Kerr turned his back with a nonchalant wave as the clipboards began to slowly advance. The end. Let's put a pin. This is a story about struggle. Luca could hear a machine humming somewhere nearby. He felt around wildly, searching for something, anything that could help. His hands found a hard object, maybe a tile? He yanked it free, lifting the cold stone. Let me go! Luca swung the tile as hard as he could at the shape that still held fast to his leg. He heard the crack of glass as the stone hit the assailant's mask. With a muffled yelp, the hand let go. Luca was free and scrambled to the door. He never looked back once on the long run home. Chapter 3. Everything's fine. The next morning, it was quieter than usual at the breakfast table. Only the sound of silverware and chewing interrupted the awkward silence. Huddled at his counter, Hiram Tolliver was meticulously shining apples. More accurately, Hiram Tolliver was meticulously shining one. With a yelp, Mr. Tolliver fumbled the apple, flailing at the air as it fell. He leaned forward and lowered his voice. He leaned in. Mr. Tolliver leaned back. He reached forward and snapped up the jars of jam, giving Luca a little wink. He leaned in for a final whisper.
We all know Beacon Pines is a great town. What you may not know is great towns grow from mighty roots. And that is why you cannot tell the story of Beacon Pines without telling the story of one Sharper Valentine. Young Sharper's keen intellect and strong moral fiber led to a grand vision. A vision of a community dedicated to a better tomorrow. In his own words, a better tomorrow is within our grasp, but it requires a singular mind to harness it. Lucky for us, he decided to grow that vision here, in Beacon Pines. And how does one grow a better tomorrow? With fertilizer, of course. Valentine's Fertilizer Company became the lifeblood of a town yearning for purpose. But then tragedy struck, a scientific experiment gone wrong. An accident which took Sharper away from us far too soon. To this day, we struggle to pick up the pieces. But one foul harvest isn't enough to stop the people of Beacon Pines. The spirit of Sharper Valentine lives on. It lives in the hearts of everyone with a dream for a better tomorrow. Together, we will follow his example and grow a bountiful future. Paid for by the Valentine family and the Valentine Fertilizer Capital Improvements Fund.
Valentine, oldest of Sharper Valentine's children, and heir to the Valentine fortune, had a way of making questions seem like demands. Mr. Wilder had learned to assume that if he was hearing from Erin, it was because she had taken... Mr. Wilder averted his gaze and began to polish his monocle. Mr. Nuncreed eyed Luca handed the jam to Mr. Nuncreed, and he nestled it with both hands. Kato motioned to the book in front of him. Mycological phosphorescence. The entire top level of most of which were Hank Atomic and the myriad of lesser revered had dreams of becoming a big-time reporter. At night, she searched for the story that could be her big break. By day, she hawked papers at the newsstand. She leaned forward and pinched Luca's cheek. Luca shifted the basket uncomfortably. Mrs. Fratelli lifted the cloth and inspected the jam. Beck locked eyes with Luca. The look on her face was equal parts expectant and desperate. Beck gave Luca a quick nudge. Jeff dug through his pockets for a bit. took a long breath, then gave a firm nod. Chapter 4. Dinner with the Moodwills. Ilona Moodwill was worried about change. A gardener at heart, she understood the necessity of change, relied on it even. But there was a difference between the controlled world of her plants and this cluttered cottage in a strange town. Almost done. Nellie was a blur of activity, digging through boxes. Sorry, love, couldn't find the dishes. We'll have to make do with paper plates. Dinner went by without much conversation. As she watched Beck and Luca finish up their pizza, Ilona let herself relax into the chair. The things she cared about were still here. Nellie finally had the job of her dreams. Beck was beginning to take root. Ilona's task was simply to tend to them. She could do that. Luca's eyes were fixed to his. Nellie was the one who Ilona nervously gestured toward the box. Luca wiped his face with his sleeve. Beck gave Luca a swift kick under the table. Luca glanced over to Beck. She seemed to be Beck slammed her fist into the table, perhaps harder than she intended. Luca glanced outside to gauge the time. The sky was darker than he expected, filled with ominous clouds. Luca wiped his mouth one last time with his napkin and started to get up. Surprised, Luca turned around. He knew Rollo could be prickly around new people. But Beck seemed cool. Rollo would warm up to her eventually. Probably. Luca began to respond, but the sky answered for him. Luca surveyed the roiling cloud. At that moment, the heavens opened. Luca flicked at one of the... Luca squinted into the eye. Luca adjusted the slide. Luca wiped his hand off on his sweater and Beck looked down. Luca bent down to examine the bouquet of wood. Judging by the odor, they were well past their prime. He flipped open the attached card. Beck took a moment to watch the rivulets of water running down the window. Luca took a deep breath, exhaling slowly. Luca let out a feral dropped to a trembling whisper. Beck brushed off her shirt and straightened up. As abruptly as it began, the storm abated. Beck gave Luca a light thump on the arm before heading in. Chapter 5. Friendly Feud. The air was heavy with a hard rain's residue. The smell of wet things. Despite his dreary surroundings, Luca felt at peace. He'd never shared those details about his dad with anyone. Not even Rollo. But it's not like this changed anything. Rollo was still his best friend. Adding Beck to the group would help balance things out. Everything's better in threes. This is what Luca told himself as he headed to the treehouse.
We all know Beacon Pines is a great town. What you may not know is great towns grow from mighty roots. And that is why you cannot tell the story of Beacon Pines without telling the story of one Shopper Valentine. Young Shopper's keen intellect and strong moral fiber led to a grand vision. A vision of a community dedicated to a better tomorrow. In his own words, a better tomorrow is within our grasp, but it requires a singular mind to harness it. Lucky for us, he decided to grow that vision here, in Beacon Pine. And how does one grow a better tomorrow? With fertilizer, of course. Valentine's Fertilizer Company became the lifeblood of a town yearning for purpose. But then tragedy struck, a scientific experiment gone wrong. An accident which took Shopper away from us far too soon. To this day, we struggle to pick up the pieces. But one foul harvest isn't enough to stop the people of Beacon Pines. The spirit of Shopper Valentine lives on. It lives in the hearts of everyone with a dream for a better tomorrow. Together, we will follow his example and grow a bountiful future. Paid for by the Valentine family and the Valentine Fertilizer Company Reverence Fund.
Luca wrapped a twig of thyme around the hook. Some fish have refined taste. Luca wrapped a some fish have refined. Luca had only ever heard him speak in this stiff yet gentle tone a few times, and it always meant one thing. Rollo scoffed. Lucas stumbled on his words, knowing he'd said too. both boys were now Rollo's tone changed to a calm, yet more intense anger. The words hung in Rollo's stomach drop, but it was too late. Luca dug through his old Gran cooed gently from Luca just wanted to. He waited to hear the sound of the front door closing. Luca dozed off again. Luca still couldn't bring him. Besides, if he ran into The Adventures of Hank Atomic. Luca carefully opened the cover and began to read. Rollo had received it for his birthday. A special hardcover edition with behind-the-scenes commentary. Rollo cherished it, but asked that Luca keep it at his house. Luca wasn't sure if it was because Rollo didn't trust himself with it, or just wanted an excuse to come hang out at Luca's. Whatever the reason, Luca didn't, but it had stayed right there. Now, at the foot of his bed, Luca lost himself in the pages. He'd read it all before. He was well into issue number 5 when he heard soft footsteps. Without realizing it, Luca had pouted away the entire. He once again felt the weight of it all and allowed his weary eyes to. Luca stood in a vacuum. He looked up at his father standing by. Walt was working a straw at Dad. Taking a final loud gurgling, he jangled the straw playfully, then lifted the empty glass as if to the source. Luca's eyes followed his father in an instant. Across from him, the figure's voice was a scratch. Well, if it isn't, make yourself. Luca held his shivering hands over the flame. It doesn't work that way. Their yellow-gloved hand pointed. It's a cold flame. Luca peered at the base of it. Wasn't wood. Tiny buildings. Luca could see small people. Luca leapt to his feet. We've got to help them! The figure gave a dismissive, why waste energy helping? The figure bent down to examine the panicked crowd. They only care about what's right in front, not like us. Luca's voice was a trembling whisper. Us? The figure slowly stood with a jolt, and a cloud of torpid mist escaped, slowly revealing the face with Luca's own face looked older. The sensation was oddly as if he'd caught his own reflection by surprise in the mirror. The doppelganger smiled. I tried to help once. He gestured towards his face. And all it got me was Luca staggered back. You? Luca felt a hand catch his father was there again, but every choice sets us on a path. This is the end of one of your paths. Luca watched his older self shake its head ruefully. Well, Dad, if you wanted him to see this, Luca watched in shock. In a flash of cold, what? Luca felt a reassuring squeak. Just remember, why? Luca woke up to see a hazy figure at the foot of his bed, silhouetted in the morning sun. Luca rubbed his eyes. The kind, concerned face of his gran came into focus. Gran silenced Luca with a gentle pat on. Luca gave a reluctant nod. Luca took a deep breath. Chapter 6. Through thick and thin. Despite Luca's bitterness, Gran was right. He needed to hash things out with Rollo. A big fight changes the nature of a friendship. Whether, in the end, it is for the better or for the worse, all comes down, if one is not careful, the same familiarity that builds the strongest of bonds can become the wrecking ball that shatters. Luca emerged from seclusion, taking in the crisp festival air. But the events of the day weren't on his mind. He had to find Rollo. Roxy rolled her eyes, shaking her head. Luca looked down and kicked it. Mr. Kerr pointed to his grinning mouth. Jeff was staring into the distance with a wistful look. Jeff turned to Luca with a furrowed brow, then gave an For a moment, the two now shared that same wistful gaze. Luca peeked up at the beehive. It appeared to be deserted. side dish. Rollo nearly killed himself putting that up into the... While it didn't turn the radio into an interstellar, it did at least boost the signal enough to overhear truckers one town over. Luca's winter coat decommissioned for the summer. With the cold holding out longer than usual, he reconsidered its usefulness. Luca tied a small fishing with the law of attraction. Griffin looked away suspiciously.
We all know Beacon Pines is a great town. What you may not know is great towns grow from mighty roots. And that is why you cannot tell the story of Beacon Pines without telling the story of one Sharper Valentine. Young Sharper's keen intellect and strong moral fiber led to a grand vision. A vision of a community dedicated to a better tomorrow. In his own words, A better tomorrow is within our grasp, but it requires a singular mind to harness it. Lucky for us, he decided to grow that vision here, in Beacon Pine. And how does one grow a better tomorrow? With fertilizer, of course. Valentine's Fertilizer Company became the lifeblood of a town yearning for purpose. But then tragedy struck, a scientific experiment gone wrong. An accident which took Chopper away from us far too soon. To this day, we struggle to pick up the pieces. But one foul harvest isn't enough to stop the people of Beacon Pines. The spirit of Sharper Valentine lives on. It lives in the hearts of everyone with a dream for a better tomorrow. Together, we will follow his example and grow a bountiful future. Paid for by the Valentine family and the Valentine Fertilizer Company Remembrance Fund.
Kato's eyes lit with excitement. Kato straightened up and cleared his throat as if preparing to sing. Kato stared at Luca. Luca grabbed the Modern Science of Atomic. Luca grabbed Natural Photography, Volume 5, from the shelf. Luca grabbed The Adventures of Hank Atomic, issue number 5. Luca grabbed the advent. Luca grabbed the. Luca grabbed the advent. Luca grabbed The Adventures of Hank. Luca grabbed the advent. Luca grabbed the. Removed his book from the desk and replaced it with Luca's. As he slid the book under the purple light, 2 words glowed: The Adventures of Hank Atomic, issue 5. Luca clicked his tongue with. Kato began flipping through the page. He continued flipping. Reaching the end of the book, Kato looked up. Luca stuck a those things always get. Before Luca could finish his sentence, Griffin handed him a corn dog. Luca shrugged, taking a sizable bite out of the corn dog. Luca tongued at his cheeks, feeling something rough between his teeth. He reached into his mouth and pulled out a slip of paper. He shook off the bits of corn dog to read the slip. Luca finished off the remainder of the corn dog. Lumi waved his hands around. Rollo sheepishly handed Luca the balloons. Luca threw himself at Rollo, hugging him as tightly as he could. Rollo handed Luca an Luca. If I am honest, I hardly but whatever happens, none of this is fair. We both have. I wish there was. God knows I've tried everything I've done. I hope someday you can love Gran. Luca folded the paper into his pocket. Luca was at a loss, but that was fine. Words aren't always necessary. Sadly, this was a distant rumble shook the treehouse. It was not fireworks. It was something the boys couldn't possibly comprehend. Something as old. A shockwave of cold tore through the room. A bitter, unfathomable chill. Before they could react, it encased them in ice. Two boys. And so, our story in a silent treehouse for the rest of time. No, that can't be the ending. It simply I won't. We are just going to have to sort through them all. Luca drew himself up and decided to take the only option they had left. Flight. He squinted down the barrel of the mission control defense cannon, aiming. He looked up with surprise as it struck true and taut. Luca and Iggy winced as they sprinted through the thicket. The branches clawed at them, reluctant to give passage. After what felt like a marathon, Luca stopped in his tracks as they reached the clearing. What the? That was all he was able to say before Iggy slammed into his back. The boys tumbled down a steep decline and crashed with a wheezing thud on a surface Chapter 5. Signs. They stood silently, catching their breath. The sky was, with each breath, a plume of steam as, let's keep moving. Luca pulled Iggy to his feet. Luca had almost forgotten. Luca looked at Iggy with a resigned sigh. Luca responded. Luca winced. The boys stared in disbelief at the sign that now clearly read, "Welcome to Beacon Pines." Looking down at the frozen stream, the crunching of footsteps trailing Luke, he looked back to see Iggy. Luke appeared upward at the darkening sky. He let out a long, foggy breath. Faintly, Iggy began. Seeing Iggy in such a pathetic state gave Luca a sense of compassion and more than a little guilt. Luca allowed himself to collapse next to Iggy. The boys huddled together for warmth and comfort. If not for exhaustion, their minds would be racing. Trying as it was, all they had Iggy motioned sarcastically to his half-deformed. Iggy shrugged. Iggy now wept openly. He wiped his nose with a sleeve. Luca gave a warm chuckle. Iggy cleared his throat as he wiped his eyes. Iggy arched into a wide yawn. Luca's eyelids began to slowly drift shut. That's all Luca could whisper before succumbing to sleep. Iggy snuggled in some more. The house smelled of warm bread. Luca was playing with toy blocks on the living room rug. He looked up to see his parents on the couch. His mother held his father's head in her lap. She idly stroked his hair while humming a song. A voice behind Luca spoke. "This is how you remember them, huh?" Luca turned to see his own face. The doppelganger from his dreams, still clad in a yellow hazmat suit, still carrying a look of disdain behind empty. Aww, look at this perfectly cozy scene. You know, it wasn't really like this. The figure picked up a toy block and inspected it. It's amazing the facades that one can build given the right materials. Not that I blame us. These are a child's memory. You don't remember, do you? Luca snatched the block from the figure's yellow-gloved hand. The doppelganger pointed to the last day we saw him, the day he chose. Luca turned to look at his father. That's not true. The doppelganger waved his hand. Everything is true here. It's just a matter of, well, let me show you. The world flickered and pulsed. Luca was sitting next to his bed, listening to his heartbeat with one of his dad's stethoscopes. The doppelganger limped into the room. No, we both know that's not. He grabbed Luca's hand and guided the stethoscope to the floor. Luca heard muffled shouting, brought close by it was his parents, fighting. Do you remember what we did next? Luca gave a slow. He could see the outline of his mouth. Damn it, Walt. We can't have. She was scared. His father stepped forward. There's a sickness. I swore I won't turn my back on them. Luca's mother grabbed. Walt calmly removed. What's right is right. I could never live with myself. Eleanor raised her voice. Spare me your bullshit. What about our son? Luca flinched. Walt turned with a pen. Luca, he said with tears in his eyes. Mom? Dad? What's going on? Walt dropped to a knee to meet Luca. Nothing, buckaroo. Your mom and I just got. Luca placed this. It sounded like Walt gently removed the device. Listen to me, Luca. I'll be back in time to tuck you in. Luca hugged his father. Promise? Walt stood up. I promise. With a wink and a grin. A figure approached soundlessly from the foggy snowfall. It stood above them, lingering, slowly raising one. From a deep slumber, Iggy sprang up. Whether it was the calming presence or the recognition that he was, Iggy felt his clenched fists lower. Luca looked up, gradually remembering his whereabouts. The figure exhaled a cloud of warm vapor. When it came to complete strangers, Iggy had trouble cobbling together an insult. Iggy huffed with gratification. Nat began to turn away and... Iggy turned sharply and began... Realizing he'd worn their Luca and Iggy turned around. Nat took a deep breath in. Nat exhaled slowly, then snapped. For a brief moment, Luca and Iggy let themselves believe until they opened their eyes and found themselves in the exact same place, cold and disheartened. Nat narrowed his eyes, furrowed. Luca began to laugh uncomfortably. He looked down at his feet. His eyes started back and forth with a sudden pain. He sprinted off into the pain. As Iggy turned to follow, Nat called. Chapter 6. The Source. Nat expressed his sympathy with a shrug and sauntered off as unassumingly as he'd arrived. He'd given Luca and Iggy what they needed, and nothing more. As Luca sprinted across the snow, the events of the past few days became clearer, pieces to a larger puzzle. Rollo said he was underground somewhere, captured. Mr. Kerr tried to cover it up with lies. The clipboards were hell-bent on capturing Iggy. It all seemed to point to perennial harvest, but right now, there was one thing that Luca needed to know. Luca stopped dead in his tracks. The tree was gone, uprooted and moved, leaving a raw gash. He dropped to his knees and dug wildly. His numb hands hit something hard. A dry whisper escaped. There was no reply, just... Iggy finally noticed the tears welling in Luca's eyes and the snow-covered grave. Suddenly, they heard the crunch of approaching footsteps and... He bent down to scoop up a snowball and lobbed it playfully. Luca stuttered through heaving sobs. Iggy gave Luca a solid smack. Luca wiped his eyes with a sleeve. Iggy flashed a mischievous smile and cracked his knuckles. Iggy and Luca shared. Iggy darted behind a He emerged. Luca rolled. Iggy stifled a chuckle. Iggy tried. Luca and Iggy, Arctic air breathed out. Mr. Kerr gazed down the abyss. Kerr scratched the back. His face contorted. Kerr sniffed. Iggy turned to Luca with a Iggy waved the box and Iggy plucked a single. After a long Mr. Kerr sighed into the with a nonchalant with a growl, Kerr. Iggy tried to twist. Luca dove forward. His grip was. He could see Kerr. Mr. Kerr, with a wild look at Luca's hand began. Luca felt every muscle. Luca felt his hand. A calm, Iggy's voice. Luca had no choice but to accept Iggy's request. With a quiet blink as his fingers slipped. The two silhouettes were swallowed. have some idea what that would look like. A fierce twinkle flashed. With a chuckle, Nat turned and walked west. Dumbfounded, Luca followed behind him, every step taking him further away from everyone, and to be continued in Beacon Pines, Pines Harder. Revenge served cold. Second time's a charm? Wait, that's it? This ends with a crummy cliffhanger just when it was getting good? I was even starting to like. No way. I refuse to be associated with. Let's go back and find something more definitive. Luca had no choice but to refuse Iggy's request. He tightened his grip and reached for the walkie. A wild delight crept onto Mr. Kerr. That's a good. Iggy begged Luca with his eyes one last. It wasn't long before they were once again surrounded by clipboards. Mr. Kerr sighed with relieved frustration. A clipboard dutifully produced an ornate. That's better. I'll put in a good word for you. A swarm of hands overpowered Luca. The end. I think. Luca began to respond, but the sky answered for him as the clouds above began to break, revealing. Luca stopped himself. Luca saw Beck skulking.